Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to tell you a story that I've honestly hesitated to share for a while. It's hands down the craziest, most unbelievable travel experience I have ever had. It involves a remote island, a sudden storm, and a series of events that felt like they were straight out of a movie. So, grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's dive into the time I got stranded in paradise. A few years ago, I was backpacking through Southeast Asia. My goal was to find the most untouched, off-the-beaten-path places I could. After weeks of island hopping, I heard whispers from other travelers about this tiny, almost mythical island. They said it had no electricity after 10 p.m., no real roads, and only a handful of family-run bungalows. It sounded like my kind of adventure, so I bought a one-way ferry ticket, not realizing how literal that would become. The journey there was already an adventure. It was a 6-hour ride on a rickety wooden boat packed with locals, chickens, and bags of rice. When I finally stepped onto the island, it was breathtaking. The sand was powder white, the water was a shade of turquoise I'd never seen before, and the jungle behind the beach was dense and mysterious. I found a small, simple hut to stay in, owned by a lovely elderly couple who spoke very little English, but we communicated through smiles and gestures. The first few days were pure bliss. I spent my time snorkeling, reading in a hammock, and just disconnecting from the world. There was no Wi-Fi, no cell service, just me and nature. It was exactly what I needed. On the third day, I decided to explore the other side of the island. The locals told me about a hidden lagoon that was supposedly one of the most beautiful spots in the region. To get there, you had to hike for about 2 hours through the jungle. The path was barely there, just a faint trail of trodden earth and a few faded ribbons tied to trees. I packed a small bag with water, some fruit, and my camera, told my host where I was going, and set off early in the morning. The sky was clear, and it was a perfect, sunny day. The hike was tough but incredible. The sounds of the jungle were all around me, exotic birds, buzzing insects, the rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth. After what felt like an eternity of climbing over roots and ducking under vines, I heard the sound of water. I pushed through one last thicket of palm leaves, and there it was. The lagoon, it was even more stunning than I had imagined. A perfect circle of calm, emerald water surrounded by towering limestone cliffs covered in green foliage, and the best part? I was completely alone. I spent the next couple of hours just swimming and taking it all in. I felt like I had discovered a secret corner of the world. It was pure magic. Around midday, I noticed the sky starting to change. Dark, heavy clouds were rolling in fast from the sea. I'd seen tropical storms before, and they can come out of nowhere, so I knew I had to head back immediately. I quickly packed my things and started the trek back. Within 20 minutes, the weather turned dramatically. The wind picked up, howling through the trees, and the sky went from gray to almost black. Then the rain started. And I don't mean a little shower. This was a torrential downpour, a solid wall of water. The ribbons that marked the way were either blown away or impossible to see through the rain. I was completely disoriented. Every direction looked the same, just a dense, dark, wet jungle. Panic started to set in. My heart was pounding, I was alone, lost, and the storm was getting worse. I tried to retrace my steps, but everything was a blur of green and brown. The sun was going down, and the thought of spending a night in the jungle, in this storm, was terrifying. I kept walking, hoping I was going in the right direction. I was shouting for help, but my voice was just swallowed by the roar of the wind and rain. Just as I was about to lose all hope, I stumbled literally into a small clearing. In the middle of it was a tiny, dilapidated wooden shack. It looked like it hadn't been used in years, but it was shelter. I pushed the door open and it creaked loudly. Inside, it was dark and musty, but it was dry. I huddled in a corner, shivering from the cold and the fear. All I could do was wait and listen to the storm rage outside. It was the longest night of my life. Every crack of thunder made me jump, and my mind was racing with all the worst-case scenarios. I had my phone, but of course there was no signal and the battery was dying. I had no idea if anyone was even looking for me. The storm finally broke just before dawn. As the first light filtered through the cracks in the shack, I cautiously stepped outside. The jungle was transformed. Trees were down, branches were everywhere, and the ground was a sea of mud. But I could see the sky. I took a deep breath, tried to get my bearings using the position of the sun, and picked a direction. After another hour of difficult hiking, I heard a sound. It wasn't the jungle. It was a human voice. I yelled as loud as I could. They yelled back. Following the voices, I finally broke through the tree line and saw a group of people. It was the old man who owned my bungalow and a few other men from the village. The look of relief on their faces was something I will never forget. They had been out searching for me since the storm hit. When we got back to the village, I learned the full extent of the situation. The storm was a freak typhoon that wasn't forecasted. It had completely wrecked the main pier, and all the boats, including the ferries, were either damaged or had been taken to a safer harbor on a larger island. We were completely cut off. No boats in, no boats out. The initial estimate was that it would take at least a week, maybe longer, to repair the pier and for the ferries to resume service. So there I was, stranded. My few days in paradise had turned into an indefinite stay. The first couple of days after the storm were tough. There was a lot of cleaning up to do, and resources were limited. But what happened next was the most beautiful part of this whole crazy story. The community came together in a way I'd never seen. Everyone helped everyone. Tourists and locals worked side by side, clearing debris, securing roofs, and sharing food. The language barrier disappeared. We were all just people, helping each other survive. I wasn't a tourist anymore. I was part of the island family. I spent my days helping rebuild, and my evenings were spent with the local families, sharing stories over candlelight. I learned how to cook traditional dishes, I played with the village kids, and I listened to the elders' tales about the island. It was a simple, profound way of life. The absence of electricity and the internet forced us to connect on a human level. We talked, we laughed, we sang songs. I was stranded, but I had never felt more connected. In the end, I was on that island for an extra 2 weeks. 2 weeks with no contact with the outside world. When the first supply boat finally arrived, it was a bittersweet moment. I was relieved, of course, but a part of me didn't want to leave. I had formed bonds and made memories that would last a lifetime. Saying goodbye to my island family was emotional. The old woman gave me a hug and a small seashell necklace, which I still have to this day. That experience changed me. It taught me about resilience, the power of community, and the beauty of simplicity. It reminded me that sometimes the most challenging and unexpected journeys are the ones that teach us the most about ourselves and the world. It was without a doubt the craziest travel experience I've ever had, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. So what's your craziest travel story? I would love to hear it in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching and for letting me share this with you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more adventures. See you in the next one.